This is Wild Hearts S. We're here on the Nintendo Switch 2. Be sure to like the video, subscribing is great as well. So this is a different take on something akin to Monster Hunter. You customize your character, you go into this area, and you begin hunting the various monsters that are here. Giant nature-infused beasts. You'll face off against these beasts that have enduring environmental mechanical elements to them, such as like ice or maybe a fire type thing. You never know what you're going to come across, and you can do this alone or with others as you aim to, I guess you would say, tackle the threats and problems that exist. There's like robust crafting, a little bit of an open world area, as to say, as you explore and get off into the opening. This is sort of the end of the prologue, as to say. You've kind of done your initial, like, oh, this is how you move around the environment, you met this random person that talks to you about your background, and then you've customized your character, and then, you know, kind of come up here to face off against this creature that is causing this snowy situation that's impacting the land. So you can customize your playstyle. There's a lot of diverse settings for, like, how you kind of battle, your weapon sets, how you sort of control your options. You can have unconventional weapons, you can have a bow. There's all kinds of different options, and you can craft new equipment with the stuff that you collect from the beasts you take out. No one remembers why the Kemono began rampaging through this once prosperous Azuma. Fueled by desperation, you will attempt to take out these dangerous creatures. And you develop your technology as you go across this hunting ground, figuring out what exactly happened to cause this situation. So it's kind of interesting. I played it a number of years ago when it first released on the platforms. Like, it was on Xbox, it was on PlayStation. I took a look at it then, and it wasn't necessarily much of a looker at the time in terms of visual fidelity. And on the Nintendo Switch 2, you can definitely tell that they had to do a lot of, like, adjustments to kind of get it working on this machine, but they also do some different things with it that kind of make it a really good candidate for a revisit on a Nintendo Switch 3 someday, which I can't believe I'm saying, like, less than a month of the Nintendo Switch 2 being out. But yeah, it's kind of, it's interesting, but very pared back. I would compare it quite a bit to a Series S in terms of, like, Wild Hearts releasing on Series S. It's the irony of it being called Wild Hearts S on the Switch. I guess it's Wild Hearts Switch is the idea for the naming convention there. I don't know. It's a bit of a choice. So we're just gonna go ahead and skip so we can get back into actual gameplay. We're gonna awaken in, like, a little area where a tent is, and then we're gonna be out into the open world. We're gonna be hunting around. But it is quite fascinating that, you know, that seems to be a little bit of a basis for this one, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, that's where we're sort of drawing from. So some similar technology, but they've pared back a lot of, like, settings, but also are now giving us, like, a better frame rate target than Series S had. It's interesting because, like, some of the texture stuff looks a bit better from what I remember. I mean, it's been a while, but there is, like, a really weird, the best I can describe it is the textures, kind of the edging looks really weird. So you'd normally get, like, an aliasing, but there's, like, a really aggressive, I would assume it's like a sharpening or something that they're using, because it looks really weird. I'm noticing that, like, mostly on, say, creatures, like, in the environment, the creatures look really, like, you don't maybe notice it as much within, like, your regular environment, like, oh, you know, the walls, everything like that. We just could just jump. I was kind of hoping it would just shoot me up all the way up there, but no, I guess not. So anyways, yeah, it's less so in the environment, a little bit in some of the stuff in the environment. But it does seem more like it is something that's, like, specifically on the creatures, and it just looks weird, honestly. How much of this stuff do I need? Wow, that was really not really putting out a whole lot, is it? So anyways, from a technical standpoint, it's like a sub 900p. It's like 800 and maybe 50p or something like that. Yeah, it's not. I mean, for the Switch, it's not bad. Like honestly, it's kind of. It is exactly what I expect from like Nintendo Switch as far as quality. Like maybe even last gen Switch, but obviously this game is a bit more ambitious in my opinion. And then it is actually targeting 60 FPS, and I don't know. It's an interesting choice for them to have aimed for this kind of a thing, if that makes sense. As seems like a little ambitious. That's where I was saying like a Nintendo Switch 3 already for this game would be maybe something that I would be like down the road. I'd want to come back and take a look at this to kind of see how it runs there and be like, oh yeah, it's a lock 60 FPS now. Because like now it's like on one hand, I'm quite happy that they are, you know, trying to be ambitious. I like higher performing games, like games that push like better frame rates and stuff. They just feel better. I'm just gonna walk by these guys that are feeding here. Yeah, I'm not gonna conjure a crate here. I don't really care about this whole conjuring system. I just want to get in there and start chopping up some creatures. So that element of it's kind of neat. Like for Switch 2 port, it's about what I expected. Because like I said, this game always, like I was never really like impressed by it visually, if that makes sense. Like it looked like the potential for the visuals to be good were there, but it was just sort of like rough looking. Even on like a Series X, it looked pretty visually rough, even back then. And that's like a much, you know, kind of higher console. Are they really gonna make me? I totally forgot about all this stupid crate stuff here. It was like my mind blanked out the blandness of this. We're supposed to get to a tent and then we can start exploring the open world, but we're doing like this boring crafting system. Yeah, so as I said, it's kind of neat too from a perspective of playing with others. You know what I mean? Like it's a good cooperative adventure. It's like it's a nice thing to see here on the Switch. I'm assuming this is going to be a lot of what the generation is, especially early on, is getting ports like this, where it is, you know, games that have been released on other platforms and they're attempting to, I guess you would say, get some money going on stuff. The Hunter's Temp, the Lantern. That's not it. Am I supposed to go down? Conjure Dragon Katamara. Conjure a campfire. Okay, well that's... The dragon pit isn't powerful enough. Maybe if I collect the essence, I will have the power. But yeah, I was always like, okay, cool, you know, a different Monster Hunter-like game. I think that's a great idea. So it was kind of cool to have an alternative, but like this one never really took off, as to say, if that makes sense. Like it didn't really, like, I don't think they really did anything with it, if that makes sense. Like it was, you know, it existed, which was cool. Like I had a little bit, like I played a little bit of it. I had like a stream or so of it, did some videos talking about it. But yeah, I was never really necessarily blown away by it either. Like the mechanics here too, like you build your own little camp is kind of a cool thing, and I like the idea of it, if that makes sense. I was just like, man, this is not the most technically impressive thing. Oh my, it's a giant squirrel! But the game had like a really cool design. Like I liked the creatures, I like the look of the environment. It's just like, obviously here on something like the Switch, it doesn't really come through. I don't even, like I said, even on the Series X, it didn't really come through, but you kind of get an idea of the vibe and the art aesthetic that they were going for. And, yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of hoping for a bit more out of it, just because I thought the potential was really there for this game. But, like, mechanically, gameplay-wise, it's pretty good, especially if you've played Monster Hunter and you want maybe something that's, like a Monster Hunter game. This game really is along those lines. And if you're not familiar with Monster Hunter, it's a game where you kind of go around hunting monsters, just like basically this. That's a very similar concept. You get a bunch of different tools, weapons, and then you go and you find monsters that act like bosses almost, and then you try to defeat them. Yeah, we're gonna get a whole lot of Switch 2 ports that are basically games I've played over the last few years, aren't we? Anything that didn't work on the Switch prior is now gonna get a extra, we wanna get a little extra money kind of port going on, which, can you blame companies, honestly? I mean, if you have a project asset like this, why wouldn't you port it over to Switch to try to get some more going on it? And I don't know, maybe on the Switch it'll really take off and, like, you know, get almost like a second life, as to say, on things. That would be really cool. Because I just think it's funny. It's like, wow, I remember playing this so long ago. And then to see it here on the Switch, I was like, wow, I almost forgot about this game. I think at one point this was like, yeah, this was like an EA game at one point, I think, or EA Originals or something like that. And then this one is a Koei Tecmo published effort. So they seem more willing to take a game and then, like, you know, take a chance on it for the Switch 2, which I think is a wonderful thing, obviously. Like I said, I don't really... You know, it's cool to see games kind of be available to others, and it's cool to see games never disappear, but... yeah, see them just available to more players, because I guess it is a different player base to a degree. And the idea of taking this out on the go is really cool. Speaking about out on the go, the resolution does drop a bit more if you are playing this out on the go. So it goes down to like 600-ish p. So you lose a few hundred p to kind of give it, you know, the ability to really handle out on the go. So it is remarkably lower. But yeah, I don't know how well, like I said, this stuff sort of shows up from a video perspective on YouTube. But like, if you look at like the fur and like the edges of the character, like the creature, and even like the fur on, say, my character, there is, yeah, it's just like a really odd, overly sharpened aesthetic. I kind of wonder why they did that. It makes it look a little unnatural. Maybe it was just deemed too blurry. Like, at least, like, the first game was, you know, the first release of this game wasn't, like, spectacular in terms of visuals, but it did have a bit more of a natural, realistic look to it. Whereas this looks a little bit more video game or cartoony because of that. If this is your first time seeing something that's similar to Monster Hunter, this is the gameplay design. You cut, and destroy and hope this thing breaks down. And it's backed by beautiful music. See, that's the thing, is like the creature design's kind of cool. You know, the art direction is fine. It's just like, I wonder if it's just the consoles aren't good enough to really handle this properly, as to say, even the destruction. But for the Switch, it seems like this stuff just like disappears like instantly, so it's at a point where it's like not even really destruction, right? But this is the open area I was talking about. Like, this is when the game kind of opens up, and you really kind of begin your quest, as to say. Should have really grabbed that extra water. You're being problematic, giant squirrel thing. It really wants me to do the silly crates. I never understood for these Monster Hunter type games why they make you fight a giant monster right off the bat that takes like forever. It's like such an attention span testing thing, eh? I think I died. To return to a tent when you perish. Yeah, that giant squirrel sure taught me a lesson. I'm not good enough to upgrade my my dragon ability. Can I not grab from the water? Need to refill my stuff. But yeah, this acts as like a bit of a hunting ground for you. So you're basically, you know, sort of a... Yeah, I think I said that right. Yeah, you're basically just chilling there, practicing your stuff, and then you come out here and you kind of explore. But like the environmental details all there, you know, you can see the building in the backdrop, you can see a place over there, but you can definitely be like, wow, they had to really tone down the visuals on this. I really wish I could actually see this on PC. The more I think of it, I really do wonder if this thing is a looker. And playing it on consoles, I just haven't been able to, like, actually take in what this game looks like. Because, yeah, that would be a bit of a bummer if I've just always seen it like this, and then, like, you know, the actual console version, this is actually something nice, and I'd be like, oh, okay. Because, yeah, it's toned down. Let's put it that way. Like, it's not... Like, it's all there aesthetically. It just doesn't look very good on the big screen. I guess when you're undocked, it might be a bit better, but then you also lose all that resolution, and... I don't know, it really depends on what you're used to and stuff. Like, I would say this is, for me, it's more in line with what I'm used to from a Nintendo Switch perspective. If you've been playing some of the upgraded Switch 2 games, maybe you're kind of expecting more. I was kind of hoping we would see some more, like, scaling technology stuff kind of deployed on games that would take this a little bit further, but... I don't know, it's okay. Like, it works, you know, and the fluidity change is nice. Because as I said, the Series S version of this was, not ideal. I'm really struggling here. Drink! You're causing problems, giant monstrous thing for me. Could you please die? I guess it listened to me. Fatality. I win. I have finished off the giant monster. Can I, like, collect it? So there you go, that's basically Wild Hearts S. It's a neat experience. I think it offers some decent gameplay. Like, it's not bad, you get some monsters. It's a good alternative to Monster Hunter if you're looking for something a little bit different, but sort of something similar to that. It's got a decent design environment. It's got some neat monster creatures. For Switch 2, it's not too bad. It's not technically mind-blowing or anything, but it gets the job done and gives you some decent performance, I'd say.